Gary, disappointing was the one and only way to describe how Saturday went. A 55-point home loss to the Zebras. What was your take?
Yeah, well, that's probably it, to be honest, mate. Disappointing. You don't want to lose at home any time, but obviously 55-point loss at home, and that was blown out by the fact that they scored the last 4 goals of the game relatively easily. And I think with about 11 minutes to go in the last quarter, we're only about 3.5 goals down. But, you know, we picked a pretty ordinary day to have quite a lot of players who were down, whether they're experienced, inexperienced. Obviously, we tried a couple of things at selection. But if you go through the game itself, we got dominated in the air, both in our forward line, obviously their defence, and of course in their forward line and our defence. We probably played the youngest side that I would have coached for a long, long time here, but that's the way of the world, and we've got to accept that. But we got smashed obviously from a midfield perspective, and the way they were able to use their skill level, and we did it quite often, turn the ball over. I'd hate to think how many scores were generated from their ability to turn the ball over, and we just made some very poor decisions, and that sort of exacerbated a lot of things. But the thing that I mentioned to the group was, where's the effort? I don't care if you play 1 game or 150 games. So to me, that was the most disappointing thing, our lack of effort and our lack of intent, and also to the work rate once we lost possession. But I guess having said that, when you intercept mark at this level these days, it's bloody hard to get the ball back. So we just had a really filthy, dirty day, and we'll probably see the measure of this group in how they respond coming into Willie this week.
We made 7 changes to the lineup that had played the week before the bye. A few new faces. It was a tough game overall, as we know, but what did you make of the likes of Ryan Pendlebury and Kieran Strawn in their first game in the red and blue in the face of some pretty serious heat from the opposition, as we saw, you know, Tom Hickey rack up so much of the ball, and it was a big test for Kieran first up.
Yeah, it was, and look, if you're going to get someone who's 203 centimetres before the deadline of June 30, you're not going to send him back to South Bendigo, I wouldn't have thought. And look, our ruck division probably over the years has been interesting. You know, we don't have a Nick Meese. We obviously don't have a a Dawson Simpson, even if you go back to, you know, 2012, and Oren Stevenson. So it's been Skipper, it's been Freddie Fanning, so it is pretty much about what we've got on the day. And even if you think about Khan Heratuku, like, he came here as a forward, not as a ruckman really. And we've got kids, you know, Waddell's been out injured for pretty much most of the year, and Michael Wen is not getting a good go at it. Chris Carey is sort of battling away and, you know, going okay, but we took a punt, and look, I didn't think he was too bad. He's an AFL ruckman, Hickey, so he's probably going to walk away from this game and having had learnt a heck of a lot in 2 hours. And the only way these kids will ever improve is if you give them game after game after game. Ryan, I thought he looked short of a gallop a little bit. Like, obviously he hasn't played at this level for probably 12 to 13 weeks, and look, they dominated inside 50s. I think it was 60 to 43 by game's end, and that's an unusual stat for us because that very rarely happens. I can't even remember the last time it happened. Probably was Richmond in round 1, but even that game we were more competitive in the second half. Campbell Walker, no. Even though he came in, I thought Hooper was marginally better when he went in to the midfield. You know, Dan Bettison had to come in when Cookie didn't get through a little fitness test. We know what we've got in relation to a youthful backline, I guess. But again, that's the way of the world. It didn't really work forward for us. And, you know, again, we're forced into making decisions sometimes because of what players do off the field. And it always has to be a decision that you think is about the greater being, which is always the team. So, you know, our key forwards, Geordie would have said he didn't have a great day. Guy Dixon similarly, you know, Khan Heratuku as well. Ash Cracker got wounded early, he got a bit of a knock on his legs, so that sort of impacted. And of course then Matty Arnott went down the first, 3 or 4 minutes of the game. So there were things on the day that didn't go our way, but that doesn't mean you can't try and make a stand and move on. But that's what I was more disappointed about, mate. Even at three-quarter time, yeah, we had a little bit of a rally, but it didn't really have a lot of that sort of I guess, emotion and, drive. So, yeah, to me, I walked away at the end of the day pretty disappointed, but hopefully that's only the most disappointed I'll be for a long, long time.
And can we expect more changes this weekend? Dylan Conway will certainly be one player putting his hand up after booting a staggering 10 goals 9 with Melton South.
Yeah, that was amazing. One of our ex-runners in Heath Pritchard sort of got the call up there, and I think they lost by 100 the week before, and now they come out and win by 100. So, yeah, you can only beat the opposition, I guess. And, Dill will come under consideration. Hopefully Cookie's okay. We'll see, how he is today. Guys that have been playing well in suburban footy. Dylan Atkins had another good game, so he's probably put together a good month. Obviously, Matty Arnott's out injured, so we'll certainly have a look there. Billy Lloyd played okay. Again, down at St Kevin's, we had young Kingy and O'Brien playing the Young Guns game, and certainly Kingy had a pretty good effort. I think he got most possessions on the day, and from what I saw, looked quite constructive across half back. I think when he rolled his ankle, Anthony Vella had another solid game. So, yeah, there's a little bit there to work with, and I guess we just got to see where our troops are at, because I think with the weekend we might have played something like 36 players now. Huey Johnson, I think, might have got a little bit of concussion, so he was feeling a bit rattly on Sunday, and we'll see how he is today. But at the end of the day, you just got to try and bring players in that are actually in form and who we think can contribute to us winning.
And fair to say it doesn't get much bigger than this weekend against the old foe Williamstown, who have hit their straps and we're on the rebound. At home, it's the Frank Johnson Heritage Day, and we're currently finding ourselves in amongst that sort of mid-table logjam. So if ever there's a day to respond, it'll be Saturday here against the Gulls. Well, you'd like to think so, Sammy, and I guess the best way to show that we're worth something is obviously by our performance. Now, without putting too fine a point on it, I think it's a real interesting game this weekend for the reasons that you mentioned, but I think just where our season sits, you can argue the toss and say, well, if you kick straight, you're going to win games, but the fact of the matter is we didn't kick straight, so where we're at is probably a little bit reflective on where the team's at and how inconsistent we've been from quarter to quarter, performance to performance by our playing group, and also to match to match. So we'll see. Viaggio got through a game on the weekend. I haven't heard how big Larry Waddell went, so there's possibilities there, I guess. But I'll just keep making changes, mate, until I get the right sort of mix. And the guys shouldn't shy away from that. It's easy to take a step back and feel that, as Linda Ronstadt once said, poor pitiful me. And that was a #1 hit back in the late 70s, for those who don't know. So we've got to be a bit better than that, mate. And the group that we get needs to come out and have that energy and that intent and that belief. We've always had a pretty good spirit down here culturally, and why wouldn't it be the best win for a long, long time? And no doubt my old mate Colo will have him breathing fire on Saturday because of what we did to him in the prelim. Now, that won't ever change that result, which is always nice to reflect back on it, but he'll certainly think they're up and about, as you mentioned, and we'll probably see our worth on Saturday, mate. Well, Gary, thanks for fronting up kindly as you always do. Best of luck in the lead up to Willie this week. Good on you, Sammy.